Well, Dave asked me to pick up this charger, said it needed a service. You think? I should have known better. Today on Tech Garage, we're going to diagnose this knocker. Well, folks, we have a knocker here. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, when an engine's knocking, that can be a real scary situation. You got a couple of options. You could put some real thick oil in it, hope it goes away and trade it in. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to diagnose it. We're going to bring you along for the ride. Now, in order to diagnose an engine knock, you really have to decipher where it's coming from. It may be a lower end knock, it may be an upper end knock. But here's a tip for you. Camshafts move half crankshaft speed. So usually upper end knocks are single ticks and lower end knocks are those double knocks down there when you rev it up. This one seems to be a single knock, but I got this stethoscope and I'm going to check it out. And this is pretty cool because you look like a doctor anyway. And what I did is I went around and I checked it out. And what happened is it's up here kind of on the passenger side on the top of the engine right there. You could hear it knocking up in there and it's kind of a single knock. So I believe it's coming from up there. Now what we don't know if it's in the timing system or it's actually an accessory because it's really up in the front end. Here's another trick for you. You can actually take the serpentine belt drive off. That's going to give you a big hand when it goes to diagnosing it. Dave, that's what we need to do. We need to take that belt off and we'll determine if it's in the front end or it's in an accessory.
You got it, doctor, and I have just the tool you need.
Bam.
This is the belt tool from RockAuto.com, and we can take the belt off together.
I'm going to hang this like a television show.
You look very important.
But before you pull your belt off, just go on the internet and research or look at your engine. Make sure you take a picture of it, but get a belt routing diagram. Some of those could be real complex and you're not going to know how the belt goes back on. That could be a bad thing.
That could be a real bad thing.
Dave, I'll reach down here and I'll pop this tensioner off. We got this tool from RockAuto.com. Gotta love it. Gives us all the tension you need.
You got it.
Slip it right off of there.
This engine is hot because we've just been running it, so be careful.
Perfect. Get that off of there and pull it down a little bit. There we go. That should free us up enough here.
Excellent.
All right, that'll stop the accessories from pulling, I'm thinking. So Josh, if you crank it up for a second, let's see what happens. Ooh, good enough. Man, it's knocking and it's knocking bad. So that eliminated the actual accessories on the front, the alternator, all the components, but you can still hear it knocking like crazy right here. So what does that mean? Well, that means looks like the upper plenum's got to come off in the valve cover.
Let's get to work.
That's dirty work, not for me.
Oh, jeez. Of course, hard work shows up, John disappears.
That's right. But like he said, let's go ahead and get in there. We got to take this valve cover off, but to do that, we need to go ahead and get in this plenum off. We have a couple of hoses. I'm going to get started on this air duct. All right. And if you want, just go ahead and start on these bolts.
You got it. Let's do it. Now, we don't know what we're going to find here because all kinds of things are going on in the front of these engines. You got chains, you got belts, tensioners, idler pulleys, and a whole lot of accessories connected to this thing. So it's going to be a mystery until we get this apart. But John is over there with a couple different kinds of engines. He's going to show us what we might be looking for.
Well, Dave's right. There's a lot going on in the front timing system, and we'll look at it all. Let's start out with a basic timing system, a single overhead cam. Well, what's going on? You got the crankshaft located right down here, and then the crankshaft actually runs through. This one happens to be a water pump. We'll talk about that in a second. And you go up to an idler pulley, and then to the cam gear. Now, I said it turns half the speed of the crank gear. You can see right here, it's twice the size, so it's going to go a little slower. That's that single tick we're hearing. Coming over here to the idler and the tension and back around again. Now this is pretty cool because this actually has a water pump right here, and let me tell you, coolant and timing belts, well, they don't get along. They don't mix. So you're going into the whole front of the engine. You're going to do, let's say, a water pump here. You want to go ahead and replace everything, and to do that, you can actually get a set here. This is actually our motor over there. Actually has a whole set here of idler pulleys, but for this one you would want to get the water pump, you'd want to get the bearing, the pulley, the whole 9 yards, and go ahead and do the belt, because if that belt jumps any teeth on there, you're in trouble. What do I mean? Well, let's talk a little bit about interference and non-interference engines. What is that all about? Well, an interference engine is actually going to hit the valve if we come out of time, and I can show you how the timing is supposed to work. It's actually a big dance between the camshaft and the crankshaft, and you can see the belt right there. And as I spin it, take a look right here. You'll see what happens. As the piston starts to go down, we're going to go into the intake stroke. Now the intake valve starts to open. There it goes. Now on my way back up, we're compressing the fuel. They're both closed. Perfect timing. Then the spark happens. Bang, I'm down on a power stroke. It starts to go down. It pushes it down. And then once again, the last stroke, I'm on my way up. The exhaust valve opens at the right time and all the gases are expended out of the cylinder. Bam, gone. Now you can see it's a pretty cool little dance between them. Everything's happening at the right time. What happens if it doesn't go at the right time? Well, it's not pretty. Let's just say, for example, that belt breaks, and that belt breaks and you're on an interference motor, whammo, you're gonna hit it every time when it comes up there. Now you could bend all the valves, or you can end up with a piston looking like this. We actually got this into Tech Garage, and you can see it right here. What happened is the valve actually is lodged into the piston. Pretty little indentation right there, and it just sits there as pretty as can be. That's an interference engine. Now I have a couple of different engines to show you. There's actually a non-interference engine. This is the old 350s. Everybody's familiar with these. Once again, that dance, that choreographed dance between the crankshaft and the camshaft. This is an overhead valve engine. The valves are up here, there's no cams. The cam's located in the center of the block right here. So I could spin it over for you. You get the timing right, and what happens is the crankshaft's gonna spin just in the right time for the camshaft to spin, so my valves all open at the right time. Same thing, intake, bam, power, compression, boom, exhaust. Everything's happening at the right time. Now let's take a look at this guy right here. This is an actual overhead cam engine. The cam's over top, and this is a single overhead cam. So you can see here, each one of them has a single camshaft located on each top of the engine. You come through here. This one's actually not driving the water pump, but the water pump's located in here. So if it was ever leaking, I said it's gonna get on that belt, it's gonna jump a tooth, you're gonna have problems. You're already in there, go ahead and take care of it. Here's the crankshaft and here's the tensioner, okay? We'll look at a couple different types of tensioners coming up. Now this one here, here's our 3.4. This is actually an overhead cam engine again, but it's a dual overhead cam. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got an intermediate shaft pulling it around there. The tensioner's located right there. Well, that's a good look at front end configurations, but I'm curious what Dave and Josh found out on our Dodge Charger, and we'll do that right after the break. We'll be back with more Tech Garage brought to you by rockauto.com.